All right, coming in at number 45 on our 2024 NHL draft rankings, we're going to Malmo in the SHL over in Sweden, where we find Czech defenseman Dominik Badinka, your modern day defenseman. Can skate, can move it. He's a one-man breakout. Watching this guy's highlight tape, he just gets it behind the net, and it's guaranteed to get out of the blue line.
Yeah, Dominik Badinka is an interesting prospect to follow along with. Ross, you mentioned Czechia prospect playing in Sweden now in Malmo. He also spent a quick season in Jokerit in the U20 league last year. So you go from Czech to Finland to Sweden. So this guy's getting a bunch of different experience here, which I think you can spin zone to be a good and a bad thing. You know, you kind of want these young kids to get comfortable, especially switching countries like this. I'm not sure the language barrier or how that works, if that's tough on them. But also, it's like, hey, these guys are doing what they need to do to advance their career. So you got to respect that. In 33 games in the SHL, he had 1 goal, 3 assists, good for 4 points. So he's not lighting it up offensively, but also this is a young kid playing fairly big minutes in the SHL. I looked at his game logs, and I'd say it's safe to say he's averaging more than 15 minutes a night in the SHL. So that's very impressive. And Ross, he's got a twin brother that plays on the same team and has followed his progression the whole time. So that's kind of cool that the twin brothers have been able to stay together like that throughout their development here.
Yeah, that is really cool. For Badinka, he's 6'3", right shot defenseman. So all of a sudden, ears perk up if you're a Sens fan. He's 183 pounds. Also, one of the oldest players in this draft. He's in November 2005 birth year. The draft rankings for our 7 entities, not as widespread as some of the others, but still quite the range. Corey Pronman at 27. Then you've got elite prospects at 38. Wheeler at 42. Bob at 42. Peters at 48. And then bringing up the rear is Craig Button at 61. So Craig's a little bit lower than most on him. He's average 40.9 on our rankings. And despite not putting up much offense, still does so many little things well. One thing he didn't do, though, last year is make the World Junior team. Now, we did Thomas Galvis. He made the team. Another draft eligible. That kind of pauses. It's like, why is the Czech team not putting this guy out there when he's got pro experience and all that? Is it something, maybe the politics behind the game? Oh, you left our country to go play in Finland and then in Sweden. Is there something there? Who knows? But there's a lot to like for Badinka as well. And there's a player in there that I think would be, as we mentioned, that modern day, like I think if he hits at his peak, and I'm not saying that he will, but like that Slavin type, where it's like you're confident when he's on the ice when you don't have the puck, but he's also going to turn it around and get it to your forwards in a hurry when he does. Now, obviously, that is if it hits a jackpot, because Slavin's one of the best two-way defensemen in the National Hockey League. But I would like a swing on him at 39. 25, a little rich for my blood, but 39 would be a great spot for Dominik Badinka, in my opinion.
Yeah, so you mentioned he didn't make it on the Czech World Junior team, and then maybe you're like, oh, didn't make World Juniors, and I'm not seeing any U18 stats here. What's going on here? Well, he did miss the U18s because of appendicitis. I think it seems like he probably would have been poised to make that team at the very least, so that explains that situation for him. Corey Bronman mentions he's got a good stride, can move the puck with tempo. He's got great straight end speed, so you love that for racing in loose puck battles. He's usually going to win those more often than not. He can set up plays in the O zone, so you're already hearing traits of a two-way defender, right? That's what you want.
Well, I wish he was just a little more physical.
I was just getting to that, Ross. He can be physical, but not in an imposing way. Like no one's shoulder checking to be like, oh man, here comes Badinka, I'm screwed, right? Like they're probably expecting him to play the body, but it's not gonna separate the man from the puck or knock a guy down or anything like that, which isn't the worst, but you want him to improve that as he gets going. But also a young guy playing in the SHL, so he's going up against men, so a little bit much to ask for him to be running guys over in that league, so that's fair. I have Badinka in the same range that I have Leon Mugley and Matvei Shervin. I'm impressed that they have pro experience already. They're playing up against men. You gotta give them props for that. But I don't see one shining attribute for Badinka where I'm like, oh man, you can't miss on that. You got to bank on this and you're going to work with it. So I think he's a nice prospect. But for me, Ross, I'm giving him 3 out of 5 stars here. I don't think I would be upset if the Sens went for him at 39, but I think it'd be a little much for me. And I think there's other talent that you could try to take a swing on there.
Okay, funny enough, I have him right next to Matvei Shervin, but I've got those two both right behind my top defensemen still as we continue to explore higher and higher in our draft rankings every day. But I've got Will Skahan ahead of Shervin and Badinka, 1, 2, 3 though, back to back on my rankings in the mid to late 40s. So I'm higher, I guess, than you by just a little bit, but I do think there would be more talent available. And if they do take Badinka, I'll be like, were they looking more just positionally? Like, was he the best right shot defenseman available at that time? I'm curious to see where he goes, but I think a fan of that team will be really watching closely next year, hoping that Badinka can pop off with a second season in Malmo under his belt. So that is Dominik Badinka coming in at number 45 on our Locked On Senators NHL draft rankings.